Why on earth did Jared Leto send bullets to Viola Davis? And did Sylvester Stallone actually have Richard Gere fired over a greasy piece of chicken? Things can get really tough on the set, but these celebrities were not afraid to call out their rude co-stars. First up, let's have a look at James Franco and Tyrese. An on-set fight nearly destroyed the careers of these two prominent actors. While both of them have gone on to have very successful careers in some of the most memorable movies in recent times, the time they spent working together couldn't have gone any worse. While they were filming Annapolis back in 2006, Franco and Tyrese would constantly get involved in verbal disputes with each other, and eventually things took a turn for the worse and got violent. Tyrese revealed in an interview that the pair of young actors actually got into a full-on fistfight on set and had to be separated by the film crew. Tyrese tried to tell his co-star to back off and lighten up, but Franco apparently wasn't going to back down. The fight was apparently so bad that production of the movie had to be halted for a full day to allow the two actors to collect themselves and put aside their differences. While they were able to push through and finish the movie, it was so obvious that the working relationship between Franco and Tyrese was completely over. It seems like there is a very good reason why these two actors never really reconnected after this terrible affair. Next is Viola Davis and Jared Leto. Viola Davis called out her co-star for being too much like the Joker. Yes, when Jared Leto was taking on the role of the Joker back in 2016, he was really taking the job a little too seriously. Now obviously it's good for an actor to stay in character so they don't lose their touch, but it sounds like Leto took things a little bit too far. His co-star Viola Davis claimed that Leto would stay in character the whole time they were filming, and he would continue his character's psychopathic tendencies off set. The catalyst in the strange behavior was when Jared Leto apparently sent a box of bullets to Viola Davis. This seemed like much more than a joke to Davis, to the point where she was actually worried for her own safety. She had no idea if there was any sort of subliminal message behind the strange package, and she even claimed that she nearly pulled out her pepper spray. Viola went on to clarify that she was incredibly tough and even got into a fight when she was younger, but this strange moment really affected her in a very dark way. There have been multiple disturbing cases of actors taking their roles too far. This also isn't the first strange thing that Jared Leto has ever done. Aside from his outlandish outfits, scaling the Empire State Building to promote his band, supposedly running a cult, this honestly might not have been the weirdest thing that Leto's ever done. Next is Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. Friends turned to enemies after some very hurtful words were exchanged. They may have appeared as best friends on TV, but the two were anything but that off screen. The feud apparently all started around pay. A 2008 report actually revealed that Cattrall approached the producers about a pay increase after she found out that SJP was making considerably more money for appearing on the exact same show. The two stars have taken jabs at each other online and in the press on numerous occasions. It sounds like it went well beyond an internet feud. It has also been reported that Parker had convinced the studio to write Cattrall's character out of the rebooted version of their famous TV series. Cattrall claimed that this was a lie and she didn't return for the reboot just because she didn't want to. She also stated that SJP had no control over her career and she could make her own decisions. Parker even tried to make amends with Cattrall in 2018 after the passing of Kim's brother, but even that didn't work. Parker passed along her condolences, but Cattrall stated that she was not her family or her friend and didn't want her sympathy. This was a really nasty feud that just never ended up finding a solution. After that is Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson. The Fast and Furious set was in turmoil after these two superstars nearly came to blows. Now it's no secret that the Fast and the Furious is one of the biggest movie franchises of this generation. They have now generated over $7 billion in revenue over the last 20 years. But even with all the commercial success they were enjoying, two of the franchise's main stars became very agitated with each other on the set of the franchise's 8th film, The Fate of the Furious. Diesel and Johnson were apparently at odds for the duration of the movie's production, and The Rock even took to Instagram to publicly address his feelings about his co-star. He wrote that some of his co-stars conducted themselves as stand-up men while others just did not. He then went on to congratulate the entire crew after they wrapped up filming for the movie, but Diesel was noticeably absent from Johnson's post. Well, this didn't go over well with Diesel, who also happens to be a co-producer of the film. He clearly held all the power in this scenario and made sure The Rock was absent from the following sequels. It seems like they might have set aside their differences now, as The Rock's return was teased at the end of Fast 10. So we will just have to see if these guys can actually get along and get back to producing ridiculous over-the-top action. Up next is Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere. These two Hollywood powerhouses nearly came to blows over a messy lunch. It turns out that Richard Gere was supposed to appear in Lords of the Flatbush with Sylvester Stallone. He was cast alongside the Rambo actor in the film, but things took a very nasty turn while they were working together on set. It was pretty obvious that the pair didn't really like each other from the get-go. The film crew was probably expecting them to just put their differences differences aside and get on with the filming. Well, as it turns out, that was not the case. Stallone really wasn't too fond of his co-star's attitude, and seems like Gere believed that he was better than everybody else. Stallone stated that he would strut around his oversized motorcycle jacket like he was the baddest knight at the round table. But things really got spicy when the actors were practicing a fight scene and Gere got carried away in the moment. Stallone told him to back off after Gere grabbed onto him violently, but Gere was completely stuck in his character. But the one moment that really pushed Stallone over the edge was when the pair got into a car to have their lunch. Stallone was eating a plain hot dog, but Gere was chowing down on a very greasy chicken. Sylvester warned his co-star that it was going to get messy, but Gere didn't listen and dripped grease onto Stallone's thigh. That's when Rambo pushed his co-star out of the car and gave the director an ultimatum. And as we now know, only Stallone appeared in the film while Gere was sent packing. Up next is Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling. One of the most captivating romance films in recent times almost never happened. While many people were blown away by the chemistry between the two actors in The Notebook, turns out the two stars had a pretty tough time coexisting when the cameras weren't rolling. Director Nick Cassavetes revealed that McAdams and Gosling had to work through some pretty tough times on set in order for the movie to be completed. He stated that the actors didn't really care for each other too much, and it created some serious issues during production of the movie. The director even revealed that at one point, Gosling had asked him if he could bring in another actress to read lines with. Gosling also claimed that McAdams just wasn't giving him anything that he could work with. It was impossible to build any chemistry. This caused Cassavetes to force the two actors into a closed-door meeting so they could work out their differences, and that ended up turning into an all-out screaming match. Well, it seemed like the screaming match actually worked on this occasion because they were able to return to filming and actually ended up dating each other in real life. Their working relationship, however, was pretty much over after The Notebook. After that, let's look at Leonardo DiCaprio and Clint Eastwood. An on-set feud has completely tainted the relationship between these two cinema icons. The legendary Hollywood figures have appeared in front of and behind the camera for some of the greatest movies of all time. However, an on-set feud during the filming of Eastwood's 2011 film J. Edgar resulted in a terrible hatred that has only been building ever since. While they were filming a scene where DiCaprio had to react to a bomb explosion, the actor was just not pleased with his reaction. DiCaprio asked if he could do a retake to improve on his performance, and that is where everything went downhill. Eastwood is very well known for his one-take method of directing, and declared that filming for the day was complete and walked off the set. Now, DiCaprio was so enraged by that incident that he turned down a role in another Eastwood film, and this left a very sour taste in the mouth of the legendary Hollywood creator. Both of these Hollywood icons have vowed to never work with each other again after this strange incident, but seems like the budding personalities were just never a good match for each other. Up next is Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman. Sometimes physical contact on set is just unacceptable. Meryl Streep is obviously a very well-known actress nowadays, and when she was just getting her start in the film industry, she had a very uncomfortable experience with Dustin Hoffman. Streep's first major film appearance was Kramer vs. Kramer with Dustin Hoffman, but things weren't always going according to plan on set. While the pair of actors were shooting the opening scene for the film, Hoffman decided to improvise with a very heavy slap across the face to Meryl Streep. Now, Streep obviously wasn't expecting this, and it sounds like it really hurt. Sure, Hoffman was just trying to emphasize his character's actions, but this was probably a little bit too far. But if that didn't cross the line already, he also used what Streep labeled emotional recall when he taunted her about her late partner John Cazale and his terminal illness. Streep was completely blown away by the strange encounter and found it really hard to forgive her co-star for this bizarre moment. And considering that this was only just the opening scene, we can only imagine that there were even more tense moments between the two actors on set. Up next is Charlie Sheen and Selma Blair. Charlie Sheen and drama really just go hand in hand. While Sheen was involved in plenty of controversies over the years that have earned him more than a few enemies, he ended up finding himself in yet another feud after starring in the sitcom Anger Management. Apparently, Sheen and his co-star Selma Blair did not see eye to eye on many topics, and this led to a ton of on-set altercations. While Blair was obviously not afraid to voice her displeasure with her co-star, it proved to be a rather risky move for her time as an actress on this show. In addition to being the show's lead actor, Sheen was also one of the series' producers, which meant that he held a lot of power over the show's casting and its direction. After various on-set fights and arguments between these two actors, it was announced that Blair's time on the series was finished and she would not be returning. Now, it was later revealed, however, that Blair had an issue with Sheen's work ethic and was not shy about letting him know. But instead of trying to work things out or actually improve on his performance, Sheen sent a flurry of angry messages to Blair letting her know that she was fired and she would never be welcomed back. And last but not least, the cast of Glee vs. Lea Michele. The Glee superstar's entire cast members turned on her after revealing that she was a terrible person to work with. Now, this was a show that capture the hearts of many across the world, but when the cameras weren't rolling, it was an incredibly tense affair. Samantha Ware absolutely ripped into Michele on Twitter, claiming her co-star made the working environment a living hell. She also claimed that Michele threatened to defecate in her wig at any given opportunity. Now, this obviously kickstarted some massive backlash against Michele, who lost brand sponsorships, and Ware wasn't the only person who had something to say about the Glee star. Heather Morris also stated that Michele was incredibly unpleasant to work with, and other Glee co-stars were even labeling her as a racist. Even Matthew Morrison, who played Mr. Schuster on the show, sort of alluded to the fact that Lea was incredibly difficult to work with. He didn't get into many details when asked about her on Fubar Radio, but he did say that you want to be a pleasant person to be around, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Michele did try to save face by issuing public apologies, but it was so obvious the damage was already done. This was something that she really just never recovered from in her career. And that does it for our look at the top 10 celebrities who exposed their rude co-stars. Seems like some of these people will really need to change their attitudes if they want to keep getting jobs in Hollywood. Thanks as always for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.